Thank you, Owl. Uh, today is Monday, June 28th, and this is the Village of Pleasantville work session. We have a number of items on our work session working towards our regular meeting that begins at 8 p.m. So the first item was just a sort of kickoff meeting to talk about the ARPA funding that we expect to get. We had anticipated about $400,000 each of 2 years, total of 800. It's sort of looking like it will be a little less than that. Is that your sense, Eric?
Yeah, just south of $800,000. Oh,
the state, I think, has asked for a 30-day extension to the feds. They have the ARPA money, but they haven't given it to us yet, and they have a 30-day extension. One of the problems is trying to figure out the town outside, villages, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, so as you know, I sent you that that PowerPoint deck that came from the New York Conference of Mayors meeting I went to a couple of weeks ago that worked through the various guidelines about the use of it. And there are a bunch of things that are very clearly permissible, sewer and water being among them, which is why we included a rough cost workup of the water tank project and the sewer project. Not to suggest that's the way to use it, other than the reality that that's something we're going to have to spend money on at some point in the coming years, and it is a clearly permissible use. So I got an Excel sheet here open, and my thought here was just to add items to it based on any thoughts anybody had, and then we'll try to, over time, develop what the cost impact might be at several levels of whatever those things might be, to consider how to use this money. We don't have to use it until the end of 2026, so we're under no tremendous pressure, but by the same token, it is clear in the federal guidelines that the goal of this was not only to stabilize the economics of communities, but to jumpstart the economy. And so sitting on the money till 2026 hardly achieves that goal. So,
would it make sense to go through the different categories of
Sure.
permissible uses and sort of, some of them don't seem like they would necessarily apply to us.
For sure. And I mean, we're in
just to sort of,
we're in the fortunate circumstance, not true everywhere in the world for sure, that we came through this economically a good bit better than we anticipated, mostly driven by lower costs in circumstances where we had lower revenues and unexpectedly robust sales tax, which we expected was going to drop like a rock. So, I mean, we're in the happy circumstance that although we have clearly got money, revenues that we lost, and we can defend simply the repayment of those lost revenues into the general fund through ARPA, and then use the money that's then in the general fund for any purpose, we're not quite in the same circumstance as communities that are struggling to get back on their feet. So you want to call out the categories, or did anyone have some things in their minds? I know, David, you had some things.
I have a couple things, but do you want to read the categories first and then?
yeah, I feel like it might be.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from the U.S. Treasury document. So support public health expenditures, that doesn't really fall under our purview. Address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including economic harm to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector. So, David, would your idea fall under that?
Possibly.
So I'll just read them off. Replace lost public sector revenue using this funding to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue experienced due to the pandemic. And Peter just has pointed out that, I mean, I think we lost some revenue, but nothing.
Well, I mean, there are two ways to figure it, including this automatic formula. So it is clear, correct me if you guys think it differently, that some piece of the money we get can reimburse the general fund for lost revenue.
That's correct.
Once we have done that, we're entitled to use that money in whatever way we seek.
Provide premium pay for essential workers. So happily, our essential workers have done fairly well through the pandemic. Invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and to expand access to broadband internet. So those are the broad categories. And I'm sure there's
Read the
lots
second category again. I mean,
the second one?
I've gone through this description
Sure.
before.
Address negative economic impacts
Right.
caused by the public health emergency, including economic harm to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector.
So, I mean, that in that category, there are some communities talking about rent relief, about subsidies to small businesses, about reimbursement of people's fines for late payments and all that kind of stuff.
What about small businesses? Do we feel like it's unfortunate that Paul's not here because I feel like he has his ear to the ground more on that kind of stuff. But
Well, I do think we should probably do a survey first, but I'd like to put into the hopper definitely the idea, a couple of things. One is just a small business loan program, setting aside like $100,000 or $200,000 for a low-income small business loans, that we could administer for businesses in Pleasantville that might be having trouble. But we need to really determine if there's the need and the interest, because you'd have to, again, that'd be like a quarter of the whole funds. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that there's a program that the Boston Public Library has run that's sort of a comprehensive program for small businesses. Let's see if I can find the name. Hang on. I'll forward this, but it's sort of a comprehensive suite of programs for small businesses, including free legal help, small business advising. It includes help with turning your business online. Some of this are donated services. Some of it they prepaid for a certain amount of time. And what's nice about it is you can, rather than having to say, well, I need to use a loan to do X, you can sort of say, well, my sales are lagging, I've got these issues, and then you can comprehensively sort of address the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So who staffs that?
It's all outsourced, but it's outsourced to discrete services. So like I said, I'll forward it along and we can discuss.
Another thing that has arisen in various conversations I've had is some special needs parents have been thinking about the question of whether the ARPA fund provides opportunities to strap a rocket onto some of the special needs training associated with police and emergency response to special needs family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been part of some of those discussions as well, and it wasn't clear to me if those such things were necessarily fit under the categories here.
I don't think they do, other than whatever monies might be freed up by the reimbursement of lost revenue.
Right.
So, and of course, if there was something that was already on our radar screen to be done that can be funded by ARPA, that presumably frees up the money whatever we might have spent for use in whatever way we want. I mean, honestly, the coming through the police reform process, I think the idea of the training we seek to get for our officers isn't so much a financial issue as just a practical issue, the supply of training and the availability of it at a given time and getting all the officers through it. I don't think it's really a money issue. Mm-hmm. The broader discussion, which I think is really county-wide, and the county had it in their police reform process about the notion of an emergency response team that could focus on responses that don't necessarily warrant a police response or which are could augment a police response, is almost certainly got to be a county venture, right? Or at least a regional venture within the county. mean, we do not have enough calls within the village alone to warrant that system being available 24/7. I don't think.
Right.
Right.
So, in terms of my thinking about this, one general principle I have in mind is just complementing these invisible infrastructure projects, which are necessary, with something visible to the community. You know, so with something that has a kind of tangible, value-added experience, giving back to them. And along those lines, similar to what you're thinking, David, talking about small businesses. I was talking to Paul just casually about, Pleasantville Bucks or some kind of in-village gift certificate voucher type program that's small in scale, but could build some camaraderie,
Good sampling,
build
too.
some fun, and
Get people to try businesses that they
That's
haven't
right.
interacted with.
yeah, and so kind of partnering with the Chamber of Commerce to administer something like that, which would be direct, which would be different. It'd be a different way to help the businesses, but to kind of
So, like, people would be given Pleasantville bucks,
right.
and that could be used at any place in Pleasantville, or
And so it could be, we would have to decide how to do it. It could be anywhere that's part of the Pleasantville Chamber of Commerce, or anywhere that's in the village boundary itself, or something like that.
right. And so,
And
and who gets them? I don't say this in any way to suggest it's a bad idea. I'm just trying to think about how you do it. There are these rules we would have to navigate against gifts of public funds.
Yes.
We're not allowed to gift money.
yeah,
But structured carefully, there might be a way to do that. You'd have to figure out who gets it and who doesn't.
yeah,
I mean, it could, in essence, be a property tax relief, so to speak,
right.
in the form of a Pleasantville buck. Do you think, Eric?
Yeah, we'd have to think through that a little bit, but this is what we're doing.
I mean,
Come up with
we simply
concepts
couldn't give it automatically to every man, woman, and child.
Right.
Right, but in terms of property taxes or households, I assume there would be some way. I mean, the federal government does this kind of stuff. Right?
Well,
Must
but
be some way to do
they're
it.
doing it to taxpayers,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
As a rebate of sorts to a taxpayer.
Yeah.
The one hit on that taxpayer idea is that the landlord gets it and the tenant doesn't,
mhm.
Right.
right? Because the landlord is the taxpayer, even though the tenant is the indirect taxpayer.
Yeah.
Did you have a thought about how much money one might devote to such a program?
No, this is pretty much the extent of the brainstorming,
Yeah.
but in the sense of something that's visible and generates a positive community response,
Uh-huh.
and maybe a little bit of surprise where people, we say X amount of money came in, and this percentage of it is going directly back to taxpayers in Pleasantville, and it is to support our small businesses directly. So,
I think we.
I think it's a
if you
clever
don't-
idea.
and if you don't use them, then the money is just an empty piece of paper, right? It doesn't, and we could kind of limit it. It could be like summer bucks or fall bucks, or we could limit it in time chronology so that it doesn't get out of control.
Mhm.
Well, it could have an
You know,
expiration date.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah.
And you could just imagine people kind of generating energy around the village, around something like that.
Send it in water bills. Then you get to the tenants.
Water bills.
Well, I see, as a distribution method.
Yeah.
But what's nice about it is that it gives individuals a little bit of relief, which seems to be in keeping with the spirit of this bill, right?
Yeah.
Well, the other
But
way,
it also supports local businesses, which is positive in a number of ways.
I mean, the trick is, I think it could be economically more impactful if you could target it through the businesses as something like a prepaid purchase of goods or services that they could apply for, that then they would give to local residents who came in, like $20 per resident or $30 per resident, something like that.
You mean give the money to a business?
Yes.
And-
So the idea would be to stimulate, the businesses and really, so
But
for
then
marketing.
but then anybody.
No, you'd have to
You'd have to
come
show
in and
that
show
you-
your ID to be a local resident, and they'd mark you down. Like, again, I don't know the legal implications, but the marketing theory is, okay, so you like the Village Bookstore, and you go to 2 other businesses, but there are 3 or 4 businesses that you've never actually been to, even though they're local and they're here. But if you knew that you had, a $20 credit that you could use there, you might go to the cheese shop or the new vegan shop that's opening up, or one of those. It might be a way to sample something new. So that, something like that could make sense.
Yeah, we'd have to think about.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, right.
Yeah, the accounting might be pretty complicated.
Right. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't. Right. Whatever we do has to be light on its feet.
Yeah, I mean, they could just say basically, look, we have a fund. We're getting $1,000 per business. They can only claim it if they submit the names of the residents and receipts. $20 credit per resident, first come, first serve, or something like that. You
I
can't
don't
get
know.
it
I don't know.
twice.
If
I think I prefer
that'll
having
jump
you
the
go to
lawyers
the
out of their
residents.
seats.
Let's do like the open brainstorming where
Yeah, no,
we
no, I
see
understand.
things are possible
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
You got to start with a vision. Now.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um,
All right, other ideas, maybe.
I have like 4 specific things,
All right,
but I
keep
don't want to
going.
cut. Did you finish your?
No, my only final thought on the business versus direct to tenant or direct to
Yeah.
resident is that there were so many opportunities for small business loans
Yeah.
in the last year and a half
Oh, yeah.
of major, as you know, through PVP and everything. And so it felt to me like there was a kind of sunsetting on those programs.
Well, I agree with. I mean, I don't know whether we need business help, but I agree with you. This is a completely separate idea.
Yeah.
My only concern is like the grandma's check problem,
Yeah.
which is grandma sends the kid's check, you deposit it. By the time that you get around to spending it, you've forgotten that it existed at all.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any stimulative effect. So you want something that gets people to take an action that actually helps the local economy.
As an aside, I can report that I've talked to a couple of different restaurants and things are roaring.
Yes.
Roaring.
Yeah,
That is good.
that does not surprise me.
So the ones that I have are, we talked in a previous meeting about the daycare application reimbursement.
Mhm.
So the idea would be local providers or local residents could submit a completed application for state subsidized daycare reimbursement, and that we would then pay that to the provider ideally with the promise that they would reimburse us, or we could see if we can work with the state to get reimbursed when that reimbursement comes through 2 months later. The idea being that there's on average a 2-month lag between the time somebody files for that program and the time the check is received, which either puts a stress on the child care provider if they agree to take care of the child for free for 2 months, or the actual parent if they are unable to find a provider who's willing to take the kid for 2 months. And I would say just $10,000 for that, because there's only 80 children per 80 applications per month in Westchester right now. So statistically, we're at less than 1 per month. So you don't really need very much money. And the average cost of daycare is about $1,200 a month per child.
And those monies are paid to the supplier of
To the provider, yeah.
and they have to be registered.
Yes.
Okay.
They're all county registered. The
Do,
next,
do they have data on how many kids from Pleasantville are already in the program?
I wasn't able to get to that level, only to the county level so
Uh-huh.
far. I will
But
try
they may
to keep
have it,
finding
right?
out. Yeah, they may. It's possible. It might be possible to get it. So the next thing is, I think it would make sense to make some Panther Club scholarships available for S-chip children. So this would very definitely affect the lowest income Pleasantville residents, some of whom may be having trouble getting back to work. And this would cover the gap between the workday and the school day. We know there's approximately 60 S-chip kids in Pleasantville, so I think that that's right in line with the intended uses of the program. So the program that I mentioned from the Boston Public Library is the specific part of it is called Empowering Entrepreneurs, but it does things like they work with General Assembly, which is a training company, to basically subsidize courses for local businesses and small businesses in Boston. They also paid for Grow with Google. So businesses that want to go online for the first time, learn how to advertise online, have a storefront, can do that. They are partnering with the Babson Financial Literacy Project to offer online financial literacy classes for small businesses. This one obviously we couldn't do the same way, but we could potentially look at putting together a consortium, which is a Goodwin Neighborhood Initiative. That gives small businesses legal consultations for free. So we could do something like pre-purchase a certain number of hour discounted, ideally hours of legal services for small businesses to sort of help them get a kickstart. But the idea is it's a sort of a suite of things to help businesses recover or entrepreneurs start new businesses.
And that would it be advertised or through the Chamber of Commerce, or like
through the Chamber of Commerce, we put it out.
Ways to get
yeah, exactly. We definitely have to promote that.
Yeah.
And that's all I have. Sorry.
That sounds great. Could I throw one more out, Peter? Or are we moving on?
No. Keep going.
And this is maybe just a non-starter, but when I think about preparing for the next pandemics, sorry, it's like a horrible thing to say, but outdoor living and learning spaces are a big thing that some communities used over the last year and a half to really flourish to some degree, even amid this. And I wondered if preparing for the next possible situation is part of ARPA money. I know that's not necessarily water infrastructure or broadband or those kinds of infrastructure, but there are so many opportunities, and we could certainly do things that the Board of Ed and the school board would be thrilled about if we were to create a learning space at Parkway Field or a kind of wooded learning space up in Enhagen Park, or places where people can be outdoors if there's ever anything like this again.
There's a group affiliated with the middle school that's trying to put together a grant for an outdoor classroom. They run the garden.
I could imagine if somewhere on one of our fields or one of our playgrounds, if we could construct a pavilion, that would be popular and could also double for a lot of these uses too.
Yeah, a pavilion was on the radar screen of PRAB. They were proposing that both at Soldiers and Sailors and also at Nanahagan.
Yeah.
Nanahagan.
Soldiers and Sailors. Well, I guess there is some shade there, right? But shade is a bit of an issue there.
I mean, that would help us also run summer camp in general.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, Parkway Field is struggling already on day one without much shade.
Yeah,
For summer
I
camp.
picked up
I
my
bet.
sweaty children today.
Yeah, same here.
That was a tough day.
And I know, I assume you mean permanent pavilion, but there's also the pavilion tent
Right.
purchase idea, which could be used for camp, loaned or rented to Music Fest. It could be used for lots of different situations. Although when we've discussed this in the past, it sounds like the setup and takedown of those is a military grade operation. So we'd have to staff that.
Yeah.
Only Eric and a very long manual and a bunch of campers, right?
Put them to work.
But if those things are possible, they could be relatively low cost that would have a nice impact on the community and show we're learning from what just happened to us, where we did not have enough public outdoor space that was usable, for kids and families.
Shane, do you want to chime in here from the school board's perspective?
No, that's a no, thank you.
And then, what do you think about the water and sewer projects? Those are obviously compliant projects. They're invisible, as you know.
I mean, to me, I would rank those pretty high. personally.
I mean, recognize that if we do not spend money that we have on those projects, we will raise people's taxes to do it. Right?
So they're not already
Exactly,
in the
so it'll
budget.
have an impact on
Absolutely,
people.
they are not.
and-
But I mean, the water tank project.
I mean, in terms of water, like if we're trying to think ahead about not only future pandemics but future crises, which are certainly coming down the pike, that stuff is going to be vital.
Yeah, I mean, the water tanks. Have you guys ever seen the water tanks?
No, but is this a cost we would share with Newcastle? No.
So the way it works is that we own what 26%
Yeah, almost 30%.
of the Millwood treatment plant, which means Pleasantville bought into it after they built it, and so that gives us that percentage responsibility for the maintenance and operation of the plant, and rights to buy X amount of water. It comes through an interconnect that meters how much water we use, and once it's in our system, it's our water and it's our infrastructure. It ends up on the top of Ridgeview, which is this weird. We have this weird little dog leg of property that goes up the side of the hill. That's part of the village of Pleasantville into the town of Mount Pleasant to get to the top of the hill. It's up above the pool, and we have two tanks up there. One of which is newer than the other. The older one was originally an open concrete cistern that at one point had a steel tank put on top, and lots of money has been spent on it, and it still leaks. So the real answer to that is $4 million
Right.
to replace the water tanks. And that cost would entirely be borne by the Pleasantville water customers, which is bigger than the village of Pleasantville. We have customers outside the village of Pleasantville, not all that many, but that's another cost to bear.
And we'd most likely fund that through increased fees,
Right.
not property tax increases.
Right, so people's water bills would go up, based on a bond.
That's right.
It's not, doesn't have to be done tomorrow, but it's on the list.
Yeah.
So everything, this could all go for that. Would still not be
Right.
That would be
Would not touch it.
20% of that project.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the sewer work, since that's a smaller price tag?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff can attest to the backups that we tend to have in our sewer system. A lot of grease and garbage. Whatnot.
You there, Jeff?
Right here in your building.
Yeah,
Peter.
that's right.
Yeah, we were. You want to just comment about the state of the water tanks and the sewer project that was mentioned?
Yeah, the water tanks are aging out. Eventually, they're both going to be need to be replaced. When we did the steel tank over the concrete tank, that's when the other steel tank was constructed also. So they're roughly, the steel tanks are about the same age. Unfortunately, the north tank leaks. Sewer infrastructure, I have a couple projects out there. I got one of the sewer lines redone when the state did the bridge project. So on the west side of Pleasantville Road, I got them to run a sewer line around the bridge. The sewers in those areas are 30 feet deep, and they're sort of in the bridge abutment. So if there's ever a problem with that sewer, it will be virtually impossible to repair. As part of that project, I also was able to get the state to open cut the sawmill and got an extension off the sawmill into the woods by the Pleasantville Ford, but the opposite side. So we could do a doghouse manhole and eliminate that deep sewer. And then on Manville Road over by the back gate of Pleasantville Ford, we could build a doghouse and tie it into the county sewer so we could be out of that whole bridge area that could be a potential hazard. We do get a lot of grease buildup in our sewer mains, so that's why I was looking to get back into lining our sewer mains. So basically it becomes a PVC liner and the grease doesn't adhere as much So we'll flow through and don't get as many backups on lines that are either PVC or that are lined with a liner. So that's why I was looking at some of those projects, because, you know, the sewer jet that we have, just, we're punching a 1-2 inch hole through a grease buildup. Lately we've been working a lot with Mount Pleasant. They've been helping us out with their big sewer jet. So these are projects that, could help us in the long run.
Okay. So the other piece of that is, you know, who knows how this whole infrastructure discussion that's going on comes out of it. It might be that there's money that crops up out of that.
Yeah,
Right.
the federal bill.
Right. In which case, that would be great news all the way around.
Right.
We have no shortage of infrastructure projects.
That's good.
Yeah.
Jeff, could you help me understand the 3,000 linear feet? It seems like a very short distance. Can you help me picture that for the relining?
For the sewer relining,
Yeah, that's not very.
I wanted to try to spread out the projects as much as we could. So what I did is over on Washington Avenue, there's the easements on the lower side. So I figured, you know, it's very easy for us to work on a sewer main, to jet it out on a road or anything, but back in the easements, going through people's yards, also in those areas, in easements, that's typically where we'll get roots into the system because there's trees. So a liner would alleviate the roots, and then with alleviating the roots, I would be able to reduce the amount of, we have a company called Duke's Root Control. They come in and chemically treat the lines to kill the roots. So eventually I could reduce that expenditure by getting these easements taken care of. So I was picking and choosing where we can get the easements completed.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
So, I mean, of course, you know, you've got these other big pieces floating out here, the pool project, Manville Road, the civic space, which, you know, collectively are a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And none of the three of those fall to these categories. I don't know, it's pool, water.
That would be a stretch, but
But this one would, yeah.
But as we said at the outset, any money we spend in a column that's permissible means we don't have to spend that money out of the regular budget. So, I mean, we're going to have to grapple, and we'll find out more about it when we see the results of the Manville Road bonding. But it will be difficult to do everything we want to do.
Yeah.
Likely impossible.
So this might help, but would it help? I guess is the question.
Well, you know what in the case of the water tanks, that's a project that we know is on the radar screen, and if money were no object, we'd be deciding it now. It's not like it's any kind of a crisis at the moment. It's just something that clearly needs to be done, and you know, in the category of you know, keeping the house together. Abby Luby says, please speak into your mics more. So Shane, is that just the issue of how much Owl is picking up?
Yes,
So,
because I have you fine through the mics.
All right.
She doesn't live in Pleasantville, she lives.
so Abby, here's our report. We'll try to talk louder. We're speaking to you through a new gizmo that tries to run Zoom in parallel with our regular broadcast. It's a work in progress. It may not be the final result. We'll try to talk a little louder in the meantime.
What about tax relief? Just for argument's sake, could
Well,
that be on the list?
So in the end, obviously, if any time we spend this money on something we otherwise would have had to tax people for,
That's a form of tax relief.
that's exactly what it is, you know. And
Right.
any time we spend it for anything we wouldn't otherwise do, that's in essence raising people's taxes.
that's right.
So that's,
Well, no. I mean, that's not using this to abate people's taxes.
yes. But again, I mean, some of these projects that have been mentioned are not the lion's share of this money. I mean, some of these things are things that could be done fairly modestly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it would make sense in the end to devote a bunch of it to one of these big projects, but then try to do some other things that are not that expensive that could have a measurable impact on people.
Sure.
Right. I mean, point well taken. Measurable impact on people in need and measurable impact on the visible world, which is to say, we're coming out of this, good things are happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
All right. I've entered those into a little list, and I'll clean that up and send it back to everybody. And we'll try to put some dollars attached to it. David, if you can forward that Boston Public Library stuff to everybody. Anybody else have anything on that subject?
Not for now.
Nope, we'll have to revisit it after a federal infrastructure bill is passed.
Yeah.
And see what it says. So
And when will that be, Peppered? That's what we want to know.
I'll get on the horn and find out. You know.
Hey, well, I think they have a compromise, so hopefully it's happening.
It all seems fragile, right?
Indeed.
All right.
Okay.
All right, BFJ.
BFJ. So attached to the agenda item is a proposal from BFJ to analyze parking in Memorial Plaza, specifically around the idea of eventually placing pay stations in Memorial Plaza. Obviously, there's a lot of questions as to what the parking demand will be like. We presume there'll be somewhat of a fall off of daily commuter needs. Right now we're in that parking renewal phase, but even pre-pandemic, we were seeing upwards of 19 spaces go unused in Memorial Plaza. And
Sold but not used.
Correct. One of the recommendations from the downtown parking analysis was trying to find a way to generate revenue from our Memorial Plazas, kind of underutilized, so to speak. So the idea would be to consider a hybrid approach where we still sell, daily commuter passes. Those spaces be available until maybe 10 or 11 a.m. And then they are, pay and display, or we'll have parking machines out there and maybe have that paid until 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So we're utilizing those empty spots. So what BFJ will help us do is take a holistic look at the plaza, figure out what the right parking limit should be. Look at, we've got 12-hour parking spots on the other side of the median, which we'll probably end up keeping, but just to look at it from a big picture view. But the other analysis that needs to be conducted is right now we're running the infrastructure to eventually place up to 3 parking pay stations in the southern portion of Memorial Plaza, and looking at what the ROI on those machines would be. They obviously want them to pay for themselves and then some.
Right.
So they'll help with that analysis. So
And they're what? 50,000-ish.
a little less than that. We have some proposals generated from our current vendor. I think all in. Jeff, are you still there? Do you recall? I want to say there are about 30,000 each.
Yeah, I'm here. They're in the 30 to 33 range. And then you gotta add the shelters on top of that. The pay station prices didn't change. They went up a little bit.
Right.
The larger increase came from from the shelters, with the fabricated metal and everything else going up. They did a rate of return on that, and I think they were about a year or so, but I think they were using, almost full capacity of the parking lot.
Right.
I mean, our core issue is who the hell knows, right? What we know is we're not going to have the same level of commuter parking demand that we had pre-pandemic.
What's it coming in at now? Did you say this at the beginning? What percentage of?
Well,
because we're doing a renewal right now.
right. They're due by the 30th, and Alyssa, how do you think we're about 80%, 90% there?
We're a little bit under. We have about 30 people who either moved out and didn't renew, so we have some empty spaces. We have businesses that aren't renewing, so it's much lower than it was last year.
And we'll take a look at that as part of this process and be
Yeah,
able
well, I'm curious about that for two reasons. For that, but then also one of the arguments against the civic space that people have continuously used is the over demand for parking in the plaza or near the plaza. And if that's adjusted, I think we should be looking at that too.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean,
But-
I think you guys see it too. During the day, for most of the year, you could shoot a cannon through Memorial Plaza on the commuter side.
Yeah.
And we're in this perverse circumstance where, in theory, we ought to be telling people that if they have a permit, they can't park there in an effort to keep the place more empty than it already is, which is clearly stupid.
Well, the parking analysis we had done clearly showed that what we were lacking was not commuter parking, but short-term parking.
Right.
So in terms of this review, that's definitely what interests me the most, is what the demand for short-term parking is, what kind of short-term parking we need.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know that what he proposes is going to completely dig into that, because obviously that is related to a broader zone here. But what we're seeing right now,
in that area. I
right?
guess,
What we're seeing right now
yeah.
is lots of cars at this end of the lot, the Bedford end of the lot, much of the day, both because you've got Taco Project, you've got the restaurants there, you've got Foley's, a bunch of places that have no parking in front, and have historically not had a good place to stop. So, with some newfound vibrancy there, we've got a lot of spaces being used at the south end, and then relatively few in the north end. Then, fast forward into the day, by 5 o'clock on a Friday, it's packed, which is good news. But I mean, it's on Wheeler is ridiculous at night, in a I suppose a good way. It's not that I wish it weren't busy, but you have circumstances where people could park in Memorial Plaza right at the overpass, and they're waiting in the drive lane in Wheeler to try to see if someone will pull out. So, but that's just human nature. At any rate, I do think what we clearly need is the capacity to relatively quickly modulate between the rights of permit parkers and the rights of transient parkers.
I think so. I think it is more than human nature, and I think this could help solve that or help modify human behavior, because I think there are a lot of people who look at Memorial Plaza as a permit lot,
Right.
and they don't. If they're driving, and if they don't drive down very often, they think, I don't want to deal with it. I don't remember the rules.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to Wheeler. And so I think if it were well known that it was a pay to park lot, it would change.
Yeah, I think so
behavior.
too.
The other dynamic, or you were going to say something?
I was just going to ask if we're going to try the experiment this summer that we contemplated but didn't do last summer, of closing Wheeler on a few Saturday
It was at
days
least
slash
one
nights.
or
Yeah.
Two.
Two.
We can talk to the restaurants. My experience of that is that it was kind of half-hearted successful. What was yours?
There's a lot of outdoor dining right now, so in a way,
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
if there's as much need for that.
Well, I wonder if we could get. It would be interesting if we could also close part of Memorial Plaza and get a couple food trucks in there and some tables, and then close Wheeler and make it, and rather than make it a festival, to sort of see whether there's a way to make this more of a destination.
Well, what we could do too is we could, in terms of the civic space, I've thought this for a long time, it would be nice to host a couple of events in what we're imagining will be the civic space, just to give people a little taste of what it could be like. So we could have, for instance, a food truck event where we set up a bunch of cafe tables and have some shade.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all good ideas, and the idea of sort of proving the concept makes sense. I will say there's a lot of sensitivity, especially at the moment, about the idea of bringing anybody else in to compete against the bricks and mortar restaurants.
Yeah.
Well, we could
So
have
you have to just be a little careful.
Yeah, we could have our establishments host it too. I mean, we certainly
Yeah,
have
but
lots of great restaurants.
right. I mean, our experience when we closed Wheeler those couple of times is not everybody wanted to participate for a whole lot of reasons, and that was in the midst of COVID, higher risk and all of that.
Right.
So I think, you know, we're going to confront the question of when to remove the on-street space we have in front of Seoul, Dolphin, and Vela. I think just at the moment, the governor's executive order is allowing restaurants to continue to serve alcohol in those settings on municipal land, pending legislative action. Otherwise, that is lifted too. So somebody sent me an email yesterday and said it's time to get rid of the concrete barriers. They're in the way. Obviously, it's been a great thing for the restaurants that have them. Little bit of concern on the part of the restaurants that don't, that it isn't fair, you know, all those things.
Oh, I really hope that outdoor dining doesn't go away.
Well, I don't think it'll go away, but we're not going to be able to keep the concrete barriers in the street.
Indefinitely, yeah.
Right.
No, I get that. Well, I mean, they
Well,
exist in some cities, but
It would be nice if we could find a way to expand outdoor dining, whether that's through temporary concrete barriers or something more permanent. I definitely think that the downtown area, the mix of parking and pedestrian space can be relooked at.
Well, I mean, witness what Upstreet, Fat Root is talking about for Jackson Alley. You know, those are things that are great movements in that direction. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Commuter activity on Metro North is coming back, but it isn't anywhere near what it was. And I don't know what you guys are hearing, but lots of people I talk to say, you know, my employer says in the office 2 or 3 days a week, work from home 2 or 3 days, you know, whatever it might be.
I saw a survey that Accenture did that shows that something like 80% of consumer goods companies are only going to be 2 days a week in office. So it could be significant.
I mean, the other piece of it we've suffered from the same is when you're not all in the same room on any kind of regular basis, it does harm the enterprise in ways that we haven't quite all figured out, and companies obviously were working on it. But.
Unless it's, you know.
All right, so
All right.
bottom line is people feel good about this proposal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got away from
And I think
My only question about it is how do we say does it say anywhere here how long it doesn't how long they're going to review parking for? I mean, are they going to do the kind of counting of cars like the last one, or this is something else?
No, I
This is
mean,
like a
if
layout?
I don't think it would be worthwhile to do the counting of cars right now.
Yeah,
if
I
we
agree.
want to cross that bridge,
I agree.
probably best to wait till the fall.
Yeah.
This would just be looking at what type of parking regulations we would think about having there, and also how that would impact paying off the parking machines.
Yeah.
And certainly
Okay.
Jeff is
Yeah.
putting in the bones to place these parking machines.
Yes. And the conduits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a way to, or I assume there is a way to pay a lower hourly rate for people to count cars than
Yeah.
than the BFJ folks? You know, I mean, could we, when it comes time for that, could we pay some high school kids to count,
Yeah, I'm
count
sure
cars?
we could. Yeah, I'm sure we could look into that. Maybe
only if
just-
they're in the STEM program.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I think engineering students do things like this, right? Civil engineering students count, you know, look at traffic
Well, and
patterns,
some of it
they can
is
be,
just-
it can be a course.
Some of it's a mechanical counter too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, candidly, BFJ had a higher price proposal, and we whittled them back a bit.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I feel like we've done a good amount of parking analysis,
Yeah.
downtown analysis.
Indeed.
I
To
think we have enough data.
produce the result that, oh well. Pool reconstruction.
Do we want a discussion about electrical upgrades?
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, Jeff. Electrical upgrades. You there?
Yes, I am.
Con Ed, our good friends.
Yes, I'm gonna bring up the screen, and then can everybody see it?
Oh,
Uh,
on Zoom? Am I supposed to be on
Here,
Zoom?
let me allow you to share screen.
Giving you the keys to the city. Hold on.
Oh boy, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, try sharing the screen now, Jeff.
The recording has stopped.
Can you see it?
Not yet.
Hmm.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, now we see it. Now we got you, Jeff.
Okay, so I met with Con Ed.
Oh, wait, sorry.
What's up?
Okay.
Nicole is.
I just joined Zoom and I accidentally had audio on at first. I apologize.
Okay.
All right, we see you.
Okay, so met with Con Ed to discuss about doing our electrical upgrades out at the plaza. This area right here is where the existing meter is, and that's where we get our power coming across the street. I was proposing to move our electrical panel to this location. Con Ed informed me that the underground electric for the whole Memorial Plaza area is maxed out.
That is the service for the private properties and ours?
Correct. The whole underground serving post office, Starbucks, the brick building, the diner, etc., is maxed out. And the reason we were talking about this is looking to put in two charging stations in the future. And those charging stations would have been over here, which would have been close to the train station. And the reason we were looking at that is we could get big reimbursement from Con Ed. Being that it's taxed out, they gave me two options. I actually gave them a third option, which I know we probably wouldn't want to do. Third option would be to eliminate the charging stations. Then I would be fine with my electric. We go as planned here.
In other words, in that scenario, you wouldn't need to upgrade the service.
Correct. But then we're locked in for the future. The other issue is this metal grate here over by the Starbucks is an underground transformer. That would need to be subsidized with a larger transformer, which they would have to put over in this island and feed back, and that would upgrade electric for everyone. That's full-borne cost for us, $250,000. I said, that is not happening. The other option I do have going down to the south end is over by Tudor Time, they would run wires across the street. We would have to pay for a pole. Well, we pay for it. They would reimburse us. They would give us a transformer to be mounted on this pole to run down, and that would give us the ability for a 200 amp electric service for pay stations and anything else we ever wanted to do in the plaza on the south end. That would be, any cost associated with that is reimbursable by Con Ed as long as we go with the charging stations.
And
So,
and that comes across Bedford Road aerial and then comes down the
Then we'll go
Underground?
underground, we'll on the pole, we'll come underground. And, I was thinking that over where, in this area right here, we could tuck in at the base of the hill, tuck in a 200 amp electric service, get the meter and everything out of the middle of the plaza so we can clean that up. The electrical, what I've done so far, all this yellow on this side, on the railroad side, I have installed. I would just have to extend it a little. Where we get into additional conduit would be in the center island, because I'd have to run conduit back to tie into the electric panel on the gazebo. These two conduits over here, in this footing, I have installed, and all the wiring is right now dead-ended here, because I can't do anything in this island until the future. What happens in this island, It's gonna be tight, but I have a 3/4 inch for base stations. I have an 1.25 here for our lighting. I would have 2 1.25 stacked on each other for the lighting and the gazebo. The red line would be for the charging station. And then what I'm proposing to do, this tie-in line here would be a single line here. But what I want to do is run a sleeve so we could get irrigation around the gazebo for the future. So I can sleeve an irrigation line and be able to, help with the parks guys with their watering abilities. This would reduce them having to water this by hand. We could put misters in there. The second line would tee off this island where we've talked about putting a tree and some
Right.
landscaping. So that would be those 2 lines. The trees here, and all this landscaping could tie right off the irrigation system I have here. So it's a little more work, but it's reimbursable. I just would need to know, if we want to move forward with the charging stations, I need a definitive answer. I can go to Con Ed, they would work up the design for coming overhead. They would get us the transformer. I get the electrician to, we get the pole put in the ground, and we just continue to move forward.
So in that scenario, would the north end of the plaza and a potential future civic space all be fed from this south end?
I don't think so. I mean, there was discussion about that being substandard. I think we can get a 200 amp, but I verified again that it's a 200 amp service. Even if we had to do anything, the electric comes off from this pole here and runs across to this manhole. So these poles are remaining as part, even with the Manville Road project. So worst case scenario, we just upsize the transformer on this pole and feed over, because that comes to here, to our manhole, and that feeds here.
Okay.
That feeds our meter back
So-
here for the light.
So back to the south end, the scenario of a new transformer opposite Starbucks is entirely our cost. That was $250,000. We don't want to do that, right?
Correct.
The scenario at the south end is reimbursable because
It's serving just us as, government, where down there by Starbucks is be serving all the private businesses.
And do we have to act on the charging stations now in order to make it reimbursable?
No, I'm sure we'll just have to sign an agreement with, Con Ed. I've already told them that portion, on the north of the gazebo, wouldn't be done right away, but I'm putting the infrastructure there for those charging stations.
These are for electric cars?
Electric cars.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to put those.
How much would we have to lay out and then wait for reimbursement?
We're probably talking maybe, the transformer they give us, I'm not even gonna worry about that. We're probably talking maybe 15, 20,000. Again, I'm doing all the conduit work, so that's just buying the material. So it'd just be getting the electrician in, and with his, drill rig to drill, and, we need to buy a pole.
All right, so, that's your advice that we go that way?
I would recommend that, and it would clean up around the gazebo area, and, then we'd only have the the base stations around the gazebo.
Right, we wouldn't have to have the
meter,
box.
Panel and everything.
You have any thoughts on this, Eric?
I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good to me. I'm in favor of the charging stations, and I like your plan for irrigation as well.
All systems go.
So just pardon my ignorance. I have a quick question about We all have computers that chargers change every few years, and we have to buy new chargers. And Tesla, I've seen, has its own branded chargers. Do they have a proprietary charger that would not fit with a standard one? I actually just don't know, and I don't want
I think these would probably be the non-Tesla charge because they're
Right.
standard for all other cars
That's what
basically
I
except
thought,
for Tesla.
right?
Tesla,
Okay.
right? Is that correct, Chad?
That's my understanding.
Yes, I've, I don't know everything about this. Our electrician, PR Electric, he's done quite a few of these charging stations, and they're generic. They pretty much would go with everything except the exclusive Tesla, et cetera.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we're ways off from actually choosing those charging stations anyway. So
Right.
we're getting in the capacity to run them, right? So,
Yes,
all right, let her rip.
thank you.
Thumbs up.
Oh, we should start the meeting, right?
Yeah, but we've got Vito on discussion of request by 70 Memorial. Hello, Vito. You're muted. Let me see. Maybe I can unmute you. There you go.
Hey. Okay, can I ask a quick question while you're talking about the Memorial Road?
Yes.
Are you gonna, I see that, I know all over Memorial and Washington, you have big planters that Jeff has his employees go out and water and stuff. Are we gonna put planters, or do you want me to choose a planter that we can go in front of my columns? Because what I'd like to do, when I'm running my irrigation, I would pop up where these planters would go so that we don't have to have guys coming out and watering them. They'll be on the same time clock as my irrigation so that you guys can save on using the labor somewhere else.
Sounds reasonable, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine, I like that idea. It's all gonna be covered with backflow. What we do is the park department is what those, large, making, and what they do is they fill them up with water and they actually hold enough water for, say, 3-4 days a week, depending on the temperature, so.
Right.
That would be fine. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll talk. So just for those who we're back in the room, Vito. It's the first time in 15 months. So, but
That's all. You look great, Peter.
yeah,
Look
exactly.
about that
Why is
day.
this day different from every other day? Vito Errico, introducing you. You probably have not met Michael Peppard, our new trustee. Have you met Vito, David?
Only virtually.
All right. Nicole, have you met? So anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
All right. Give us the drill, and then we're running a little late, so we won't take much of your time.
And Peter, did you want to share screen?
I will
just
share
for the-
my screen here. Bear with me. Share screen. I'm used to having more screens. All right, see that? Yes, people see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, explain your.
Eric, do we have the one that I sent to you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah, it looked a little different. It's got the red and purple.
yeah. I will forward that along.
Or you want to share it, Eric?
I'm not actually. That's the
Okay.
computer.
Did I not? I thought I shared the one was in Novus. Did I?
Let me see. But Vito, if you want to, it's the 13 spaces. I'll find that drawing. But
Hold on.
Yeah, it's the spaces in the front, right next to what is it, Key Foods?
The side of Key Food. Right.
Side of Key Food, right there.
Right. I'm going to stop share.
it's uploaded to the
On
agenda
Cooley?
item.
All right. Hold on. I'll get it.
We're looking at the purple section.
I opened Cooley Street Impact Plan in the agenda item.
That's weird. It pops up, but yes, it's the purple. It's the purple area.
All right. Hold on. Let me try again. I refreshed.
It's showing up purple on my screen.
All I get is the one I showed before, but whatever. It's the same plan, and we can highlight it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, I need to keep using those spaces
these spaces, right?
Correct. You know, which basically
So
encompasses
Key
where all the
Food,
consumption-
this is the side of Key Food right here. Here's Cooley
Right.
Street. Here's Vito's building, and as it's evolving, down here is the former Mediterranean. These are the spaces that at one point in time were assigned to the post office for their permits.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, so if anyone's been by there, I know Eric came by and he showed him what we're dealing with. You know, I guess the world right now is having a lot of issues of supply.
That's
of
for sure.
Supply of material.
Right.
So, you know, my subcontractors, I'm making it, you know, kind of like important that as material comes in, like the custom brick for the lower part of the building, all the wire mesh switches, all stuff for all the metal decking. All of this stuff is a real commodity, and I can't afford leaving it at the supplier. God forbid they sell it by mistake, and then when I need it, it's not there.
Right.
You know, we're in real trying times right now, so I need that area to store, you know, a lot of material as we're going through the job, just to make sure that it doesn't run out on me.
Understood. So, I mean, we're in a circumstance here where the post office guys are all parking in here, and it's kind of been a victimless crime.
Yeah, they're parking along the back of the building.
Right. Been a victimless crime because we've had such low demand for parking. How long you need these?
You know, I don't know yet. You know, I want to get all the outside materials. Indoor material I can't store outdoors anyway. It's getting the outdoor material. Like the windows are coming in from Ireland. They hit the first container hits the first week in July, and then the second container comes the second week in August. And hopefully by September we'll start installing all these windows, and you know, then things will start moving out. And as soon as I'm done with it, you know, I'll let you guys know immediately. But I would say before the winter.
Okay, so that would be a big help, obviously. So, anybody have any comments, concerns about it?
I mean, we're still fine for.
Right. I still clearly, given it's the one silver lining of the pandemic, these things are a whole lot easier than they would otherwise be. So,
and unfortunately, Mediterranean closed for good, and you know, those spaces are available morning, noon, and night.
Understood. Yeah. So,
you know, so
you have our approval.
So just as a matter of formality, we have a license agreement on tonight's agenda that would.
Yeah.
In the regular session, we have a license agreement. So, all right, Vito.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll come back to the update on the pool in work session afterwards, but we are late for the regular meeting. Everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for Monday, June 28. We are, for the first time in 15 months, here at 80 Wheeler Avenue. So it is a near miracle. We're happy to be back. And we are, at the moment, trying out a few different ways to run in-person meetings in parallel with Zoom meetings. Certainly there were a bunch of benefits associated with Zoom, made it possible for people to participate and watch meetings easily wherever they are, and we hope to maintain those advantages at the same time as we return to in-person meetings. So our first few efforts at this may be a little rugged, but those of you who are watching on Zoom are watching us through a new gizmo that we have bought that is a watchful eye upon us. You'll let us know how it works for you all at home. But we also have the live feed that we normally have that is going out through the cable TV channels. So work in progress, but we're back. So good news on that front. Very good news on the overall pandemic statistics for Westchester County. As we find our way back into meetings here, not only for the village board, but for other boards and commissions, we've established the guideline that is in alignment with the guidance from the state and the CDC, which is that everyone who attends or participates in any meeting at Village Hall must wear a mask until and unless they demonstrate to the village staff usually through showing their vaccination card or the Excelsior Pass, that they are fully vaccinated. So when you arrive at Village Hall, please arrive with a mask, demonstrate to the people we'll have checking your vaccination status. If you are fully vaccinated, you can remove your mask. If you are not, you must wear a mask while you're here. So we're working our way through trying to find a comfortable way for everyone, recognizing that the COVID numbers are great. We have had very, very, very good results in the village for the last few weeks, and very good results in Westchester County. It isn't gone. There continue to be positives, and as perhaps most of you already know, there's some folks in our community that are not even eligible to get a vaccine at the moment for medical reasons. And so we need to be respectful of everybody, and please follow those guidelines. All four of us here and Paul Alvarez, when he arrives, are fully vaccinated, and therefore we sit here happily together for the first time in a long time. And in the case of Michael, for the first time ever at 80 Wheeler Avenue. So a couple of welcomes to Michael Peppard, who you have thus far only seen on Zoom. And at the corner of the table, a welcome to Alyssa Hochstein, who you have also seen on Zoom, who is our new person, our deputy clerk, and side saddle to us at all these meetings, and happy to be all in the same room together. So.
Indeed.
That guy over there, Marcy, I've never met him.
I never left here. So.
That's right.
Essential worker.
That's right. So I just had a couple of announcements to make, not a whole lot. One is that the high school graduation occurred for the first time in memory, maybe for the first time ever, at Parkway Field on Friday night. So it was a great night, a very good night from the standpoint of the weather, which was what the gods owed us in this difficult year. And the school district had decided that Parkway Field provided a setting where they could offer an opportunity for more people to come and not pack them in as they normally would be in the school circle. So happy to have the school there, happy to celebrate the graduation of 140 some odd students who graduated this year from Pleasantville High School. As I think lots of you know, the pool has opened, it's rocking and rolling. I am really, really happy to report that we feared that we might have lower than normal attendance, and instead we've exceeded our expectations. So really great support from everybody in the village, which is great news for the pool, great news for the village to be able to gather at the pool, and great news for all of us as we consider what's next in the renovation of the pool facility that we are developing some momentum, and that so many of you have made clear how much you like the pool. So we're working hard to make it a great season. I think it's off to a really good start. Suggestions are welcome. Obviously, Mike Newman, our longstanding person in Parks and Rec, recently elevated to the top role as superintendent, and his team, Chris Manson and Mindy Rogers, as well as the pool directors, are available for suggestions, comments, compliments, or complaints. Hopefully we end up with more things in the first three categories. A bunch of folks commented to me over the weekend about the ongoing trouble with the Sawmill Parkway project. It remains noisy, although perhaps not quite as noisy as it was in the worst of the pile driving. But to have the sawmill narrowed to one lane for such a distance through the village of Pleasantville is not only an inconvenience, but it's forcing a lot of traffic through the village that represents folks trying to avoid the traffic tie-up. So I wish I could say that there was a near-term answer. There isn't. It's going to be at least another, year and a half.
I've requested an updated timeline from DOT, which they're preparing.
But the project is going to morph, and we're going to have a different section reduced to one lane. They're going to finish the side they're working on now, and next, I guess, spring move to the other side. But relief is not in sight. But as Eric already mentioned, we're in regular touch with the State Department of Transportation. There was a site visit out there with Senator Harcum and Assemblyman Avenanti, trying to see if there was a way that the legislative branch could apply a little bit of pressure to improve these conditions. I do think that the DOT is trying hard. The business of making these improvements necessitates closing part of the lanes, and it's just no fun. We had a discussion earlier in work session that's kind of the beginning of a clearinghouse discussion about what to do with the money we expect to get from the American Rescue Plan Act. We talked about that before. We're expecting the Village of Pleasantville all in will get a little less than $800,000 delivered in two segments, 400,000-ish this year, 400,000-ish next year. Obviously, that's good news. It comes with a bunch of strings attached about how we can use it. And we talked tonight, and we'll be continuing to talk about the ways in which we might make use of it. I want to remind everybody that we've got this pay-by-app system called Pango that's available to you if you choose to take advantage of paying for parking at any meter or any pay station in the Village of Pleasantville. When you get to a meter or a pay station, there will be a Pango branded sticker there that gives you a zone. You can download the Pango app on Android or iOS and set up an account, and you're off to the races. A little bit of setup involved, and you have to put in a method of payment. Once you do it, it's very easy to pay. You pay a 16% surcharge to do it, but on a 75-cent hour, that's a 12-cent surcharge, in exchange for which Pango gives you a running timer of your status. It gives you a reminder 5 minutes before your meter expires. And in the areas where extending the meter is permissible, which is most of them, you can also extend your time by app. So not a bad deal, I think, for 12 cents. I encourage you to use the Pango app. Just a shout out to Erin Ballard and a bunch of the other folks involved in the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Group. They put together and funded the banner that you may have noticed across Manville Road in front of the Burns, drawing attention to the Juneteenth holiday. It was up for a week or so before Juneteenth, and a great opportunity to remind everybody what Juneteenth means and focus on this new holiday that is much more present in people's minds than ever before, which is a good thing. So thank you, Erin, and to the many other folks whose
Can I just add one thing? They also, the same group organized a Pride picnic on Sunday, which was attended by lots of local families. So I wanted to give them a shout out for that.
I just had two more items. Lots of conversation going on just in the street and in the dairy aisle with folks interested in the question of how we will respond to the legalization of marijuana. The issue that is before us and every other community is whether we will elect to opt out of having retail sales or on-site consumption sites licensed here in the Village of Pleasantville. That's a decision we have to make by the end of December. And we'll be engaging a community discussion on that subject in the coming months. For a bunch of procedural reasons, it appears likely that it is logical for us to actually act on that fairly late in that window, but it's our expectation and intention that we'd reach out to the community and arrive at a conclusion on that well before the end of the year. Then lastly, I just want to report that I attended yesterday an event at the Lutheran Church welcoming their new pastor, Kevin O'Hara, to the Village of Pleasantville, taking over a role there at the Lutheran Church, which was not only a happy event, but also a nice event for the return of Paul Egensteiner, who was the former pastor, now a bishop there, but who was the chaplain of the Volunteer Fire Department for many years, and a really important figure here in the Village of Pleasantville. We're glad he's moved on to bigger and better things. We miss him, and it was really nice to see him. Welcome, Kevin O'Hara, and your family. Anything else for you guys?
I wanted to mention one thing, which is that as a stemming out of the police review process that we hosted over the year, I've been working on putting together a police community outreach and communications committee, which is one of the things that we laid out in our plan. So there were a number of people who expressed views over the course of our review that I've reached out to be part of this committee. But if there's anyone out there who would be particularly interested in that aspect of having our police department be connected with the community and communicating what they're doing, let me know. You can send me an email, or anyone on the board an email via our website.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just a congratulations to the day camp, which opened today for our kids in Pleasantville after many months of debating about how it might open and what the health department guidelines might be. It opened today in 2 locations with free running, sweaty, unmasked children. And it was a really joyful setting in both locations for everyone. So just a big thanks to Parks and Rec for everything they did, planning for every possible scenario, and I think arriving at one that is making everyone very, very happy.
It's great.
A hot week to get started, but it sounds like
But there's a pool.
that's right.
Yeah.
And kids might be better at heat than their parents are. All right, good news all the way around. We'll have more to report pretty soon as we are working through the idea of replacing and renovating the pool. We've been working with a consultant, Steve Rimkunis, Troy Tassier, and Jim Kennedy, and Eric have been very much involved in that process, as well as a bunch of folks on the pool task force. And I think I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be back to all of you within the next month or so to give you an idea of what we think a new pool might look like. So I think Michael was on the call the other night with Steve. Michael's the liaison to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and I think I can speak for all of us in saying it was a great meeting. Steve has thrown out lots of good ideas, and it feels like we're headed to something that will be a nice balance of the old and familiar, but some new elements that would be a lot of fun too. So. All right. Any other comments? Is there any comment of any kind from the public out there in Zoom land?
This is Tom Murphy. I'd like to make a comment.
Hey, Tom. Welcome. If you can just give us, we know you, but if for the record, give us your name and address.
Tom Murphy, 52 Orchard Street, here in Pleasantville.
Yep.
I'm coming back to you regarding the minimum lot requirement for swimming pools of 20,000 square feet.
Right.
I'm requesting, what do we need to do to review and change this law?
So what?
You provided me some information regarding lot sizes. The data you provided me covers approximately 1,200 residents in the town of Pleasantville. And with the data you provided me, less than 25% of the properties meet that 20,000 square feet requirement.
Right.
So the law basically is restricting over 75% of the residents from getting a pool without a variance. So I think this is a little unfair, and I would like to ask the board to look into reducing the requirements, ideally back to less than what it was back in the 70s when it was changed from 10,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, with no known documentation of why they made that change.
Right, all true.
And I'm asking that it be reduced to 7,500 square feet, which would represent roughly 80% of the properties in Pleasantville, based on the data you provided me.
Yeah.
A typical 75 by 100 foot lot would then qualify to have a pool on their property.
And so I mean, there are two things that control the issue, and I know this is what caused your request for a variance to fail. The two issues are lot size, 20,000 square foot. Yours lot size, if I recall, was 11, something like that.
11,808
right.
feet.
The other issue is setbacks. The code requires.
I'm not here to address setbacks. I'm just here to address the lot size.
Okay, but
that's my concern.
I understand, but if we were to accept your proposal to reduce the minimum lot size to 7,500, again, that would be a 75 by 100 foot lot, then you apply the required setbacks, and the required setbacks are there not to be harmful to anyone, but to protect the adjacent neighbors from the impacts of having something like a pool close to their property line. The question there is,
Exactly, and I am not questioning the setbacks, I'm questioning the lot size requirement.
okay, so we've had several of these conversations, and I think the board, I can assume I can speak for everyone, that everyone is willing to take a look at it. I will speak for myself, having looked at this with some care in response to your questions. The idea of throttling it back to 7,500 from 20,000 strikes me as unrealistic, and I would not hold out much hope of convincing me that that was the right thing to do. That said, I'm perfectly willing to take a look at the question of reducing it in some way.
Is this a topic that can be open to the public for
Sure.
public feedback?
Sure it can.
So under the current law, and this is a village law or
The village zoning code.
okay, because aren't there state requirements that
Well, there's
have
state
impact on this as
requirements having to do with fencing and electrical connections and all that kind of stuff.
I
So,
remember this came up last summer
Yeah.
when
So-
everybody wanted to pool. Yeah.
Tom, can I suggest that you send me an email that will take the place of a letter? You don't have to bother with a letter, and express what you would like to see the code changed to. Sounds like it's 2 sentences, just as you've described. And then we will likely ask our planning consultant to take a look at that request as well. And then we'll engage the question of what other communities have, are we an outlier, and all of those things. Sound reasonable?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, any other comments from the public? All right, there being none, on to the resolutions. Nicole, 169. I will share my screen for the benefit of those who want to follow along.
I'm just going to look at notes myself. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village mayor or village administrator, whoops, oh, sorry, to sign the contract for video and web coverage for all village board meetings, special broadcasts, and community events for the period of June 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2022 with Pleasantville Community Television Incorporated. And the contract, the PCTV contract is attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? We've been back and forth about this with PCTV and had several conversations with them and a couple of executive sessions about negotiating the contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. David, 170.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 14th, 2021 attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or corrections to the minutes for June 14th? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 171. Mike.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year 2021 as listed below. From the contingency account A1990.400 in the amount of $1,040 to the Village Hall Cleaning Services account A1620.429.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 172. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year ending 2022 as listed below. Appropriate fund balance general fund, 170,000 transferred to capital to Village Hall, Daikin HVAC and oil tank removal. Increased revenue and expense in the capital fund, same amount, $1,700. Interfund transfer from general fund for the same expenditure. Budget transfers in the water fund, $8,000 from a contingent account to water postage.
Is there a second? So as I've commented before, I am fearful that based on the activity of the last 2 months, Eric is going to leave us and become an HVAC consultant. Bad story here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to replace 2 of our condenser units that sit behind the Village Hall. Unfortunately, there's also an abandoned oil tank underneath the slab that's not on our property. So we're working with the adjacent property owner to have that tank removed, disconnect the units, temporarily remove them, then dig underground, remove the oil tank, and then place the new condenser units back. So
Aside from that, it's easy.
And this is happening this summer?
yeah, we're
July.
hoping to have it. We're waiting for the condenser units to be delivered, which, like everything else, is becoming an adventure. But we're actually looking to relocate potentially the 2 board meetings to Clinton Street for the month of July. So
Because we'll lose HVAC in this building,
that's
in
right.
this section.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Sadly, aye. 173, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated June 28, 2021 for fiscal year ending 2021, covering check numbers 100612 to 100647 from the General Fund $63,265.85, the Water Fund $1,737.78, the Refuse Fund $431.64, Trust Fund $4,202.50 for a total of $69,637.77.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? These are expenses that accrue to the fiscal year recently closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Now, for the current fiscal year, Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated June 28th, 2021 for fiscal year 2022, covering check numbers 100648 to 100730. From General Fund in the amount of $208,119.28, Water Fund $21,319, Capital Fund $7,748.55, Refuse Fund $20,830.28 for a total of $258,017.11.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 175, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Franklin Jackson Jr., court attendant, effective June 30th, 2021, and approves the request to resubmit his application for Westchester County Civil Service Review for rehire as court attendant, job code 0051, at the rate of $24 per hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
Civil service hoo-ha.
Yes, so Franklin is a long-time court attendant here in Pleasantville. It's a part-time position. He's retiring from his full-time municipal job in another community. And as part of the retirement requirement, he has to fully retire from all municipal positions. He's going to do that. He's looking to move to another state for retirement, but in the meantime, that move occurs in August, so he's willing to come back, work until August so we can find his replacement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We will be sorry to see him go. But wish him well in whatever new state he arrives.
Absolutely.
176, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village clerk to advertise for bids to replace rooftop HVAC and refrigeration equipment serving the Clinton Street Senior Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
A season of HVAC.
It is. So we have secured CDBG funds through the federal government that's administered by
Community
Westchester County.
Development Block Grant.
That's correct. Really, the only projects that our community is eligible for are connected to senior services. So, as part of that grant, we are placing an emergency generator that will service Clinton Street, the apartment building, as well as the senior center. And we're replacing these rooftop, the HVAC condenser, and the condenser unit that provides power to the walk-in refrigerator unit there. So 2 very important projects that need to be done.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Michael, 177.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following authorized signatories for financial transactions at all depositories. Peter Scherer, Mayor, Noreen Regan, Treasurer, Healy Shaw, Deputy Treasurer.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 178, back to you, Nicole.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to amend Chapter 14, Section 5 and create Chapter 14, Section 9 of the Village Code to eliminate the requirement that a village elected or appointed official or employee be a member of the Board of Ethics of the Village of Pleasantville in order to establish the Board of Ethics as a truly independent body. And whereas a proposed local law was introduced on June 28, 2021, and whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SECRA), and no further environmental review is required. And whereas the Board of Trustees is fully familiar with the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing on Monday, 12th, 2021 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York.
Actually, Nicole,
right.
scratch that
Not
instead of
here.
80 Wheeler Avenue, 1A Clinton Street.
It's going to be, all right, okay, so it's going to be at the Clinton Street Center at 1A Clinton Street, Pleasantville, New York, 10570, to consider the proposed change.
Is there a second? So we're re-noticing this. We had noticed it once before, but at the time we noticed that it was going to be entirely Zoom meeting. And then the governor rescinded his executive order and had to start from scratch on that front. It's a pretty minor change that we're making, but one that I think makes sense. So just to recap, it's Monday, July 12 at 8 p.m. At the Clinton Street Center, 1A Clinton Street. We'll be camped out there while the air conditioning work happens here.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
So that both July meetings will be at Clinton Street.
Yes.
That's what we, is that
Yeah,
pretty
we have
definite?
a site meeting Monday. We'll know more in the coming week and a half, but let's just plan on having both meetings there.
Okay.
All right, 179, David.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign an agreement with Sustainable Westchester to implement the Village of Pleasantville's waste and recycling communications platform.
Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, you want to explain?
Sure. So this was a pre-pandemic initiative that got sidetracked by COVID, but Sustainable Westchester offers this mobile app that will inform residents about sanitation schedules, recycling schedules, also detailed information about what can be recycled, what can't. We know of some peer municipalities that have joined and have gotten good reviews, so we'd like to move forward with the program. So it's been budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
We just weren't able to get to it last year, so we'd like to move forward this year, this fiscal year.
Great.
Let's make sure we do a good job advertising that, because I think that would be...
Yeah, it's Neha with Sustainable Westchester made this presentation to the Municipal Officials Association Executive Committee, and it looks like a great thing.
Mhm.
It's just, you can set up reminders and all kinds of stuff. So
Sounds great.
I don't live here all these many years, and I think, okay, it's tomorrow the day.
Yeah, right, right.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 180. Back to Nicole, right? No,
Michael.
Michael, sorry.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village mayor or village administrator to sign a license agreement with Pleasantville Lofts, LLC, to allow use of a portion of Cooley Street for parking, storage, and handling and loading of materials into the 70 Memorial Plaza building.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we met with Vito Errico, the developer of the building at 70 Memorial, in work session, and he explained what he's seeking to do. We're in a circumstance where the parking is available given the low demand for permit parking, and we're happy to make possible improved logistics there. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Now, Nicole, 181.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the proposal from BFJ Planning for analysis of parking in Memorial Plaza.
Is there a second?
Second.
Also, a discussion we had earlier, we're essentially asking BFJ, our planner we have used on quite a few things, to assist us in thinking out how we might create more flexible opportunities for parking in Memorial Plaza, especially the balance of permit and transient parking. So All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. That's the last of our regular agenda items. Any new business from anybody?
So just one question: when does when's the deadline for parking permits?
June 30th.
Okay.
The
Day
new
after
permit-
tomorrow.
Right.
So can you next week maybe just give us a summary of like how we fared this year versus last year? Because I'm very curious about the
Absolutely.
changes in parking.
Sure.
All right. Any further comment from the public of any sort? So thanks to everybody. Thanks to Shane and PCTV. Thanks to Eric and Alyssa. We have, I think, done okay in our first hybrid, partly Zoom, partly live meeting, and folks that participated. Thank you, Jeff. We, I think, we're on our way back to something approximating regular life, and at the same time trying to hold on to the advantages of Zoom meetings. So we'll probably improve our system a bit over time, but feels like it went pretty well. We have a personnel item to discuss in executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into executive session?
With a work session?
Oh,
Yeah, we have one work
Just on the
session
pool
item
thing?
left to talk a little bit about the pool thing, but we'll do that brief comment in work session, then go into executive session. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you all. I hope the summer has kicked off pretty well. Congratulations again to Pleasantville graduates from BRS, from the middle school and from the high school. We will be back in a couple of weeks, Monday, July 12, again in a hybrid live and Zoom meeting, and that meeting will take place at the Clinton Street Senior Center. So thank you all, and good night.